right, hello everybody. Folks want to grab a seat, the few that are still standing up, that would be great. We'd love to get started. Hello, how's everyone doing today? Pretty amazing time, right? So I have to tell you, we're going to talk about a lot of topics on this panel about leadership, and we're going to have a very real conversation, and I'm going to open it with this very real teamwork moment we just happened.
Yes, we did.
Because my phone went offline and I couldn't see my notes, and everybody got their notes out, and ultimately I got a picture of Laura's notes. So like, the team effort is happening even amongst CEOs of very large organizations.
Right, we'll solve the problem.
That's right. So when we talk about lessons of leadership, you know that there's some real walking it, not just talking it happening. Hi everybody, I'm Adam Freed. I'm a managing partner at GSV. I actually spent a lot of my career in the company building side at Google and Etsy and a company called Teachers Pay Teachers that I led for a number of years. And then had the pleasure of joining the GSV team on the investing side. And there are many great pleasures, but one of them is getting to interact with incredible leaders. So I want to introduce this panel of incredible CEOs. And we're going to have a really frank, honest conversation about the leading organizations in this very complicated moment that we're living in. We'll talk about it through an economic lens. We'll talk about stakeholder management. We'll talk about what employees are needing today and some of the other challenges that we find leaders are facing today. So Ashley Andersen Zantop is the CEO of Cambium Learning. It's an incredible K-12 family of companies and products. Chandra Pemmasani is the CEO, Dr. Chandra Pemmasani is the CEO of UWorld. I'll let you talk a little bit about what UWorld does. It's an incredible story. You founded the company more than 20 years ago now.
Yes.
Jonathan Satchell is the head of LTG, Learning Technologies Group, based in the UK. Publicly traded company, no complexity in a publicly traded company to lead. He'll talk a little bit about that. Angela Williams is the CEO of the United Way globally, which is a heck of an organization and a whole different form of stakeholder management that you have to deal with there. And Laura Ipsen is the CEO of Ellucian and an incredible leader as well. Also, you just saved my you-know-what, so I'm doubly grateful. So.
I have one ask. I would like to congratulate Ashley on the Power of Women Award today at the
Absolutely.
lunch. So congratulations, Ashley.
Thank you, thank you. And congratulations right back to Laura, who is a previous Power of Women Award
Didn't have
winner.
to say that, but thank you.
Great. Well, I think what I'd like to do is hand it over to you all, and we'll do kind of a lightning round of you sharing a little bit about the organization you lead yourselves and maybe one leadership issue that's on your mind today. Why don't we start with you, Ashley?
Sure, sure. As Adam said, I'm Ashley Andersen Zantop. I'm chairman and CEO of Cambium Learning Group. And at Cambium, we serve the K-12 education community with supplemental instruction, with professional learning and academic measurement through our brands Lexia, Learning A to Z, Explore Learning, Time for Learning, and Cambium Assessment. And we really spend our time and energy laser focused on the intersection of the greatest need and the greatest opportunity to make a transformational impact through technology. And as we think about the challenges that we face today, one of the significant challenges that we're constantly thinking about and working on is in the K-12 space, the growing and continuing teacher shortage and high rates of teacher turnover that impact significantly student outcomes. Along with all of the things that we think about bringing to the table to fix that, we have to work on and through that challenge in order to be successful with instruction. And that's top of mind for me when we think about, why does this matter to me? Why am I doing this? How did I come into the space? I started my career in the classroom. I trained as an educator and worked in classrooms and in collegiate athletics as a coach. And so those challenges, those things that I was excited about, those frustrations are the things that I carry with me every day as we think about an organization serving the K-12 community at scale.
Fantastic. Chandra, we'll go down the line.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. This is Dr. Chandra Pemmasani. I'm the founder and CEO of UWorld. We make complex topics easy to understand, and we serve students across high school to all the way to medical school, law school, finance, accounting, and multiple other verticals. And we prepare them for not only high-stakes exams, as well as actually curriculum and learning the subject material in a way that's lasting for long-term memory. And the challenge that I would say is that there are very few number of people that can really take these complex topics and explain in a simplistic and engaging manner. I would say maybe 2 to 5% of the faculty across the United States are capable of doing that. And getting all those people into one place and creating this high-quality content across multiple spectrum is the biggest challenge.
Jonathan.
I'm the co-founder and CEO of Learning Technologies Group. We are a leading consolidator of what is I'm sure you're all aware, a highly fragmented industry, particularly in the corporate learning space. And we saw an opportunity to bring together high-quality companies around the world to try and provide as comprehensive a range of services and SaaS platforms as possible in all of our workspaces. I'm sure you're aware of how multifaceted the talent transformation capabilities are, and we believe that they need to be better linked and integrated together to deliver the potential that we all know exists within our industry. And we're quoted on the London stock market, which is an incredibly enjoyable place to be at the moment. And although we are British, 70% of our business is over here, both in terms of our staff and our revenue. So we consider ourselves pseudo-American.
Pseudo-American. Hi, I'm Angela Williams. I'm president and CEO of United Way Worldwide. We are one of the largest nonprofits in the United States. We cover about 95% of communities in the US. We also operate in 37 countries. We are the engine that mobilizes the caring power of communities. We work in partnership with governments, with other nonprofits, with corporations, and we focus on 3 areas: health, education, and economic mobility. We're here today talking about education, but we also all recognize the intersection between health, economic mobility with education, and that as you all as educators and those that care about this space, you recognize that there has to be that intersectionality and intentionality in how we approach the whole person in community.
Wonderful. Laura Ipsen, and Ellucian is an education technology company exclusively focused on higher education. We're 56 years young. Higher ed is all we do. We serve about a little over 2,900 institutions in 50 countries around the world, 22 million students. And right now, we're really focused on moving the software that institutions have run on premise to cloud and SaaS. And probably the biggest leadership issue there is around change and transformation, not the technology, but what does that mean for the roles that institutions fulfill? So our focus is on institution resiliency. That's really about putting students at the center and thinking about how do we achieve better outcomes, how do we connect on social mobility, make sure that we're doing things around the financial aid and funding to make sure every student can achieve their dreams. So the most important thing right now is that all the data exists to take action. We've just got to put it in the hands of the users and the communities to have more impact. So that's our focus, and excited to be on the panel today.
Well, thank you all. We thought one of the first topics we would dive into is the kind of economic times that we're living in. It's been an interesting few years, and there's lots of prognostication about whether we're going to be okay or things are going to get a little more complicated again, but there's certainly been a lot of belt tightening across organizations. When you're leading an organization, I'd love to talk about how you help manage both the P&L of the organization to stay stable and the employees to understand what's going on and to stay engaged as you have to go through that process. So does anyone want to chime? And maybe we can quickly just, how many people are in your organizations? Can we do a quick rundown?
Sure. We're 2,600 employees and about 1,000 licensed contractors.
We have 700 employees.
About 5,000 across 35 countries.
Across the globe, about 14,000.
3,500?
Yeah, so not small organizations, just to give you a sense of the scale. So you can't just go have a quick huddle by the coffee machine and figure out what's going to go on. So you know, in our early conversations, Laura, you talked a little bit about the need for, I think, what you called ruthless prioritization. Can you share a little more?
Yeah, and I would say, When we talked to, you first raised the issue of complex economic times, it's always complex. You have complexity when times are great because you still have to prioritize to move the needle. So I talk about ruthless prioritization because it's really in the good times easy to get passionate and spun up about lots of things you could do, but what are the things that you need to do to grow your business, to have customer impact? So, and certainly in the tough times, I'm really proud of how we've worked because we've managed in a way that I haven't had to have layoffs. I'm actually growing and hiring. So as a tech company, that feels good. My friends at Microsoft, where I used to work, and Amazon, Google, and others, they've laid people off. So I think part of the prioritization is not just thinking about the financials, but to think about the needs first of the customers, the teams that you deploy, and bring that all together. So certainly we have to hit our financial targets, know we're in good financial health. If you're consistent in terms of laying a strategy and executing on your goals, you'll have more predictability. The market's always going to take twists and turns, but I think it's really about having that North Star, making sure that you and everyone that works in your organization knows your mission, knows your strategy, what role they play, and that you execute. One of my favorite individuals was Colin Powell. He was at one of my events, and he has a famous quote, strategy equals execution. Who cares about the strategy if you can't execute on it? So when you have ruthless prioritization, you know what it is that you have to get done, and you communicate that over and over and over again until you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I can say it one more time. That's what it takes across an organization, not just the small ones, but very large ones. You've got a pretty big team that you have to communicate with. So that's how I focus on it, and we're always going to be in complex times. You have to figure out what the opportunity is, set your North Star, and drive that execution framework.
Chandra, you said something when I brought up this question. You kind of looked at me and smirked and said, you prepare for the hard times and the good times.
Yes.
So what does that process look like for you?
See, if you look at broadly how the world operates and how people think about it, you have these economic cycles. And when you prepare really well when you are in authoritative or good position, I think you can circumvent and you can go through less painful situations. What I mean by that is you can take most of the things into 3 buckets, like how you look at your consumers or your customers. Like, for example, you take in our UWorld, we have some products that are almost monopolistic. There is no competition. And I can charge another 30, 40, 50% more than what I am right now. But if you do that, you're going to get some resentment, and people start slowly getting distance, and you lose the purpose, and then competition would start coming in. That way you lose a little bit of trust on that. Whereas if you take the employees, again, same time, like if during the periods of a recession, employees are at a disadvantaged position. So if you take care of them in a manner that even though you are in good position, I think it builds a lot of trust. At least in our company, there are a lot of people that come to us and tell us who is asking them to join in their companies and how much offers they are getting. And they show us, but they still don't leave. Like if you look at the last 2 years, most companies have huge turnovers. Like at UWorld, very few, less than 5-10% of the turnover. And even those are not the people that we really want to stay. Like majority, if you look at most of our company, more than 50-60% of our people are like 5 years, 10 years. So when you take care of them during the tough times, I think they'll stay with you in the long run. Same thing with the macroeconomy, or you look at the investors. Just because you're getting the debt so cheap, 0%, 1%, you go and buy these companies that are not worth, and you pay huge premiums, and now you ruin your balance sheet, and then when the economy comes like this, it's going to give you a hard time. So these crises are unexpected, but common, but you have the greatest opportunity to prepare when you are in a good position.
So Jonathan, you made a quip about how easy it is to run a company on the London Stock Exchange. So it turns out that the public markets aren't always patient and calm and interested in listening to your deep strategy. So how do you manage those stakeholders?
Not very well, it would appear. I think the thing that I've learned certainly in the last couple of years is that there is a much greater immediacy on the public markets than there is in the private markets. I suppose it's an obvious thing to say, but one has to be aware that I was taught at the very beginning that under-promise, over-deliver, that's sort of a standard mantra of if you're in the public markets, always beat the numbers or meet the expectations, and there will be a reasonably tight correlation to the way that your share price performs. And I'm proud to say that the team has done a fantastic job over our 9 years, and we've never missed a forecast. We're still not missing forecasts, but if I say to you that we doubled our profits, or virtually doubled our profits, from £55 million in 2021 to £100 million last year, and our share and our market capitalization went from a smidgen under £2 billion to about £1 billion today. That gives you a sense of the savage derating that our business, alongside many other businesses, has experienced. And I think in terms of managing shareholders or stakeholders, the most important one for me actually is I have actually deprioritized investors, because if we're delivering on our numbers, we're doing what we said we'd do strategically, and the share price is doing what it is, then it just happens to be the case. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm literally a passenger on this ship. So we don't spend a lot of time focusing on that. We certainly don't worry about it anymore. There's just no point. All it does is slightly constrain the way we might think about financing large acquisitions, because normally we would resort to raising some equity to do that. And down at these share prices, we probably wouldn't want to. What I have focused on, my team are very focused on customer engagement. Customers don't really care about what the valuation of the company is. They care about financial stability, which is sacrosanct. But what I have really focused on is engagement with staff, because I've been caught out by the fact that I've shared with them that theory that if we deliver on our numbers, then the valuation of the company will follow suit. And strangely enough, they're all in the share save schemes, and many of them have options. It's the standard sort of mode of capital generation and distribution around the business, which I really like. And for the first time, I'm having to justify why. Just hold on, be calm. We're doing the right things. This is not caused by an underperformance of the company.
Right.
Market forces are prevailing. And it will all come good. I think it's back to something that Laura said earlier also. Just staying with consistency of leadership message, I think, is really important. Staff look to you at the times to see whether you're panicking or changing or diverting, and for them to see that you're consistent and calm and can explain these things is really important.
I think that makes sense. We read each other's emotions more than our words,
Right.
don't we? We agreed, by the way, as a panel, that every panelist wouldn't answer every question because there'd be too much to say. So we're going to quickly hit a lightning round and then come back to Angela and Ashley. How many people have been thinking about AI? So I wondered what you all thought of as currently the most potentially disruptive force in your business. Maybe it's AI, maybe it's something different. And then we'll talk a little bit about how you manage strategically and tactically with the possibility of disruption. And all businesses at all times are managing the possibility of, if not the reality of, disruption at some segment, particularly large organizations. So lightning round, we'll start with you, Laura, and we'll work back this way.
Oddly, when I think about disruption, if it's AI or ML, it's complacency, ignoring it, not acting. So I think the biggest thing that we saw through COVID with higher education is you saw some institutions really, many did a phenomenal job, but they've taken that disruption and turned it into something really powerful, new models of learning, new types of engagement. Those that'll struggle are complacent. They're prone to inaction, which is really how institutions were built. So as institutions see disruption and they've kind of changed the model to say, we got to think about the students first. We saw what happened with students and how they rebounded. I think the biggest thing I fear in disruption, AI, ML, we've got to get a roadmap, we've got to get ahead of it. You got to act and not just wait for it to happen, because it's here right now.
Absolutely.
It's here right now.
Great. All right, Angela.
Lightning, I'll try to move fast.
I was like, that was a long lightning. That was more like a thunderclap radiating. Okay.
Is that like 2 sentences?
So the lightning is this. As leaders, we should be leaning into the disruption and embracing it. It's not ever going to go away. We are now living in a new era. As such, we look at technology, we look at AI, we learn how to incorporate it in what we do and recognize that the future is now.
Amazing. Jonathan.
I agree with what my fellow panelists have said, and so trying to take a different perspective on it. I think AI, of course, is really important, but I also think it's likely not another very important disruptor off the agenda at the moment, which is, for learning indeed, XR. I do think as we see the new devices that are emerging over the next year and a half or so, we will find that we're able to do a lot of in-the-job, on-the-job performance support and learning. And that could be really interesting indeed. And I think it's just been slightly knocked off the agenda at the moment.
So changing technology, changing society, changing hardware.
And acting with sense of urgency.
Acting with a sense of urgency no matter. Is there a particular disruptor you're thinking about right now?
I mean, see, fortunately, we are in a high complex subject area, and it's not there so quickly, but it will come, just a matter of time. But you want to be prepared before it comes.
Great. Ashley.
Yeah, we're all in education. We all care about education. If we're being successful, if we're doing our jobs, disruptive innovation will continue to happen and hopefully happen at a higher rate because we're being excellent at our jobs. We're helping people leverage technology to disrupt. So not only do we need to be ready for it, we need to be working on it. We need to be driving it and thinking about it. And of course, with all disruption, there are downsides. Technology is a tool. Tools can be used for not good. Tools can be used for good. So be prepared and plan for the not good and drive and focus on the good. And for us right now, AI is an example of one of those things. We're actively working on how to leverage AI to solve some of those big challenges that I talked about when we first started.
I love what you're saying. By the way, I used to say in my organization, like I ran a K-12 company as well, and I said, let's don't use the word disruption. Disruptive kids are kids where something is going on that needs to be interacted with. Mm-hmm. And let's think about disruption to our organizations or to our businesses in the same way. Like something's gotten a little out of place, let's try to understand it, as opposed to pointing at it and saying disruptor. So you said something in our earlier conversations, Ashley, about sort of disruption, sort of what disruption can be and how you think about this moment. So maybe you want to go a little deeper into your thoughts on if not disruption, then pressured evolution of a business.
Yes. Well, I think, Adam, what I said to you in our
evolution?
Yeah, that was good. I think what we talked about in our earlier conversation is that really we have to see all disruption as an opportunity. And if we're not seeing the opportunity, we're missing the point. And that, I think, is fundamental to any kind of disruption, whether we're talking about a technological disruption, whether we're talking about a societal disruption. I think, as we got started, I was naming that one of the challenges that our organization is thinking about all the time is high rates of teacher turnover and teacher shortages in classrooms when we think about really improving academic outcomes for K-12 students. And yes, that is what we would consider a negative disruption. But we have to take the opportunity to think about how we can be part of the solution. And something like AI is a capacity builder if it's used effectively. So how can we think about leveraging AI as a capacity builder at a moment when the teachers who are in classrooms need more capacity than ever before? They are more constrained for time and bandwidth than ever before. It's our responsibility to think about those two disruptions and think about how we can create a bridge between them towards a solution.
Thanks, Ashley. Angela, your organization is both a bringer of change, a supporter of change, but also the organization that helps catch people when change causes real dislocation. Mm-hmm. How do you think about this moment that we're living in?
So I want to just be on a soapbox for a moment and say it would be wonderful if we think about systems holistically, whether it's education, health, et cetera. What would it be like if there was no need for a conference like this ever again? And so what I think about, and my challenge to each of you is to recognize that we're living simultaneously in 2 points of time, now, the present, as well as the future. And so as a leader, one of the things that I've been doing in partnership with the Institute for the Future is training my leaders in our system to be futurists. Let's understand today what the signals that we're seeing in the future and how do we make decisions today to affect the future. And I'm not talking about tomorrow, year 3, 5 years, but 30 years out from now. And that's the place that we need to be in. We recognize, looking back in the past, systems are broken. They have been broken. They've been broken for a reason, because those who are in charge of the systems don't want to see improvement. I just want to be real, because there's a power dynamic. And so I say this every time I get on a stage: why don't we totally disrupt, blow up the systems, and start anew. Let's stop the tweaking. Let's stop the fringe, changing things around the edges, and let's go in and do something different. And everyone here in this room has the opportunity to do it. There should not even be a place for a United Way Worldwide and other nonprofits to be the safety net, because we've dealt with the systems and we've stopped the talking.
Can you go a little, that's so provocative and so important. Can you say a little bit more about what that would mean to disrupt the system more completely? Or to rebuild it, perhaps, is really what you're saying?
To rebuild it, in the sense of, for example, prior to being at United Way, I worked I was the CEO of Easter Seals, which is a disability servicing organization. During COVID, I saw what was happening, especially to Black and brown children, so I created the Black Child Fund. What I'm seeing, and again, I'm not the educator, I'm the nonprofit leader, but what I saw was Black and brown children getting further and further behind, not being diagnosed, no early childhood intervention, not given the screening tools to identify learning, or other challenges, but instead, to your point, Adam, being called disruptive. Well, why not get at the root cause of the disruption? What else, in addition to the child themselves, what's going on in the home? And so if we take a holistic view about the individual, about the child, we can make a difference. We can put them on the continuum from as I say, birth to earth, but giving them the opportunity to thrive. And that takes partnership across all sectors.
You changed that. Deborah says cradle to gray and your birth to earth. That's pretty cool.
Oh, I also say sperm to worm, so.
Okay, we got that one. Well, I
love it.
Dose of reality after lunch.
Adam, I thought I would just make a comment on this, because
Yeah, of course,
I think
Laura.
one of the challenges that we have across education is we live in silos. It was 2 years ago when Hardeep Gulati from Power School was here, and I said, why aren't we working together? Why don't I know people like Ashley? Because when we live in the higher education space, we are dependent on the success. Higher ed is dependent on the success of K through 12. So this Birth to Earth and others are, how do we look at the data and really follow the student journey? So as leaders, we have to think about being more connected. And the systems that we build, if you think about disrupting systems, it's really to disrupt them and bring them back together, to connect them, so that we can see the learner journey from K through 12 into the community colleges, into the four-year programs, out to the workforce. And the great news is, through the disruption of COVID, that is actually accelerating, because more institutions and schools are moving to cloud. They're building SaaS. And when you're in SaaS, you can connect all the data. You can see what's happening real time and do more predictive work. So the terrible part was, during COVID, the brown and black students and children got further left behind. So we have a bigger issue to solve for.
Yeah.
We need to focus on this in a way that we can see those students coming in, and when they're told by their parents in 8th or 9th grade there is no money to go to school, we back it up and say, no, we got solutions, we have data, we have capabilities to make sure that those students have the same opportunities, that we catch them. There has to be a bigger, not a safety net, but just a platform to make that happen, a springboard. Yes. Not a safety net, it needs to be a springboard. Yep. We fell behind, and we gotta pick up the pace. We got to get comfortable with change. It's uncomfortable. We got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable to change, because we're not going to get there in time for all the students that have those missed opportunities, and it starts at the beginning.
So, Laura, you've segued us beautifully into the next question, which is, it's different to be the leader of an organization that is mission focused, particularly around education or health or something that really you're taking the lives and the fates of people in your hands in many ways. What are any unique challenges of leading an education organization? You know, if you're of the four of you who have for-profits, your investors still want the profits, and your nonprofit donors want to see results, and at the same time you're holding people's fates in your hands. How do you think about the complexities of leading these double bottom line organizations? Oh, it got real quiet.
Well,
Were you directing that to
Anyway, it was an open question.
Oh,
You can
okay.
actually jump in.
I'll absolutely do that. Okay, so I think it's really critically important that we do something that Laura talked about at the beginning of this session. When you talk about being clear about what your priorities are and being so clear that you feel like you can't say them anymore, the same thing is true about your purpose and how you pursue your purpose. You have to be clear with all of your stakeholders And in education, we have lots of stakeholders, right? We have, yes, you mentioned either investors or donors as some of our stakeholder groups. We not only have the people that we serve, who might be educators or they might be students, they might be their families. When we think about that part of our stakeholder group, of course, we also have the organizations that fund the work that we do. Those organizations might not be the same as the people we serve. Our customers may be different from the people we serve. When we think about that whole stakeholder community, we have to be crystal clear about what our purpose is and how we're pursuing our purpose, so that we're agreed with not only that whole community, but also our employees, the people who do the work inside of our organizations and are responsible for carrying that work forward on a day-to-day, a minute-to-minute, minute-by-minute basis. That whole stakeholder community has to know and understand what our purpose is and the principles by which we will conduct that work, because at any given time, something could blow up. We're talking about complex times. We're talking about leading through complicated times. We're talking about complex macroeconomic conditions. We all lived through and worked through and struggled and strived through a pandemic. Talk about some of the most dynamic moments of all. We have to make decisions in real time that are big decisions that affect people's lives. And the principles by which we do our work, the principles to which we hold ourselves accountable, we have to know and understand them and be crystal clear about them, so that when we make decisions on the fly that have big consequences, we look back on those decisions and are proud of how we conducted ourselves. Even if we were making decisions with imperfect information, even if we look back and said, hey, I could have done that differently, I could have done something better. If we look back and are proud at how we did that work, and our stakeholder community is proud of how we did that work, even if we got something wrong, then we are on the right path and we're clear about how we're going to do that work. Great. Without that, your complex stakeholder community crumbles.
So, because we're going to run short on time, I want to get to the next lightning round question, which we're going to start to move into like the employee experience and really the leadership in general. So, 2 fast lightning rounds. First one is work from home, work from office, or hybrid, just in your organization.
You're starting with me again?
Okay, Ashley. Laura wants to. We're buying Laura time.
I can go.
Okay. Here's the response to that is, what are you trying to achieve? What are your goals? What are your people trying to achieve? Because I don't think there is one right answer to that question.
We do 4 days in the office and 1 day work from home.
Okay.
It's a hybrid.
Hybrid, but hybrid, but defined.
4+1.
4+1.
Clear expectations.
We allow a lot more remote working, but we encourage people to collectively come to the office at the simultaneous times.
Great. So structured hybrid as well.
Same structured hybrid.
I don't care where you work. I want it to be about an experience and building that collaborative model. So you're at home, you're on the road. I hate the thought of like saying it's an office. It defines you as something specific. We're all about creating experiences and making sure that the experiences are dynamic and collaborative. That's really what matters, and that's
Great.
what we've learned.
I'm just going to chime in and say the right answer for us currently is remote first. Our default is remote, and we work in person and collaborate when and how we need to. We're organized around our customers.
That makes total sense. All right, next quick lightning round question. This is one that we talked about that I love, which is, what is the leadership style you look for in new leaders coming into your organization? Angela, let's start with you.
So I've been in my job now for about 1.5 years with this organization, and I specifically look for leaders that enjoy leading in the gray. Because life is no longer black and white. It changes so consistently. And so as a leader, you have to be able to lead, not necessarily knowing what the answers are or seeing the entire picture, but be comfortable in also being creative in that space of gray. And the other thing too is I actually, for all of my new hires, have them talk to our clinical psychologist who is helping us with our transformation of a 135-year-old organization. And so I need leaders who can not lean on, well, what was done in the past, or what was the current system, but take that blank white sheet of paper and recognize that we're in this new era, and now is the time to build version 2.0 of a legacy organization.
Jonathan.
Absolute authenticity. But I don't just mean the term, I mean really live it. So you'll never get someone to crawl over broken glass or climb up a mountain for you unless you're prepared to show you do it yourself.
Right.
And I think really importantly, we all believe that we should show ourselves as being completely immune to pressure and stress and all the rest of it. Absolutely not. As long as, if you can show vulnerability, it makes you human. As long as you show that you're also able to cope with this and you have strategies and you are still a leader at the end of the day, but you are a human being. And that's the most important thing for me.
Chandra.
We're looking for transformational leadership who can be quite adaptable, driven, push themselves and others without making people burn out, doing it in a balanced way.
That is a good balance. I love it. Ashley.
Yeah, we look for a few things. The first is personal connection to purpose. Like we've been talking about, K-12 is hard, transforming it is hard, it's not easy work, it's meaningful work, and it's rewarding. Even when you're ultra successful, especially when you're ultra successful, it's hard work. So we need people who feel connected and committed to that purpose and want to do that hard work. We need people who are curious about others. When they meet someone they disagree with, they meet that disagreement with curiosity, and they want to dig in and learn more, because understanding other people's perspectives, especially in a multi-stakeholder environment, is critical to solving the actual problem you're facing, not the problem that you assume that you're facing. And the combination of those two things are so important to what we do.
Yeah.
I'll make it simple. I love leaders who are curious and ask great questions. There are a lot of people that talk about everything. It's the Lin-Manuel Miranda that's like, talk less, smile more. The curiosity factor, because that means they're going to grow and learn, they're going to collaborate because they're curious. So for me, that's the top.
All right, so the last one is your choice in our last question for the last few minutes that we have for each of you. Either what is one story that embodies how to be successful in your organization, and or you can bucket them together. What is advice you would give to up-and-coming leaders who are thinking about their career now? Anyone want to go first? Angela, you want to take it first again?
For up-and-coming leaders, I say two things. One, no is just a word. So if someone tells you no, it's okay, doesn't mean anything. Just know that there's another opportunity. And I love what you all said about being curious, being flexible, and just exploring. Living your best life, recognizing that you have to work hard to at least perfect something, not dictating what that something is, but perfect something, but be open to what the universe brings to you.
I love it. Chandra?
The advice I would give is work hard, work with passion and a higher purpose, ignore most small things.
Ignore the small things. I love that.
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Believe that you can push against your limitations and achieve anything. And in particular, we really like to employ and promote from within rather than bring in senior people from outside the organization. And we champion those stories all the time as an example to others.
Do you want to share a little bit more about that? Because that is one of I think that's a struggle for leaders, which is, can I really get this team where they need to go? And it's a struggle for employees who often worry that in order to get promoted or to grow, they have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, look, it's complex because I've made mistakes where we've had very high potential people and we've over promoted them too quickly and felt very bad when they failed, and we didn't necessarily create the right escape route for them to come back into a less complex role for a while to then rebuild again. So you do learn along the way, but we have great stories of people who've risen up through the ranks very swiftly indeed. And it's a pretty known situation in the organization. If you work hard and you deliver, then opportunity will present itself. And as we're so moving as a business in terms of 17 acquisitions over 9 years, we also have that great flexibility whereby there's always a requirement for someone to go and work somewhere else in the business.
Wow, that's a lot of absorption and reacclimating, right? Ashley?
I would say this because Angela already touched on the concept of tenacity. Be an ally. Be an ally. And I know that's not always advice that leaders, you hear from leaders about being a leader, about being successful. Be an ally, meaningfully support someone, more than one person. Support someone from each of your multi-stakeholder groups. Be an ally to someone in a meaningful way. Invest in their success. Invest in helping them become successful and navigate their challenges. And they will invest in you. They will invest in helping you. And I promise you that you can accomplish more together than you can on your own.
Great. Laura.
I would say that, say thanks and recognize others. So often people are looking for the accolades on themselves, but in our company we have bonusly points, and on the tough days I go and look at the bonusly, and everybody is just saying, thank you so much for the help you gave me. What a great collaboration it was. You really went over the top with how you helped support a customer. So give recognition to others. It'll come back to you. It's too early in careers. Everyone wants to own something and be known for something, but show the appreciation for the teamwork and the collaboration, make it visible. Not a commercial for Bonusly, but I love it because you just go in there and you just see the wonderful interactions that happen every day. And when you're running a company, you don't always see all of that. And so it's just very powerful, and then you can kind of sprinkle a few more points around the way, so.
I love it. Well, thank you. I want to thank all of you. I learned so much in our prep call. I've learned so much with you today, and I'd love to work for any of you. I love my job, but just in case. Thank you so much.
You just have to ask Adam.